Scheduled.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Lester Holt.
Good day, everyone. We're coming on the air with breaking news. President Biden is about to speak about this morning's hostage release in the Middle East. 24 people, including several small children and a group of Thai nationals held captive in Gaza, were set free as part of a broader deal between Israel and Hamas. No Americans were among this first group released. That bargain also included a temporary ceasefire, a promise of humanitarian aid into Gaza, and the release of Palestinian soldiers. The 13 hostages released today are from a group of more than 200 people kidnapped during Hamas's deadly attack in October 7th on Israel. Here is the president as we wait for him to take the podium there. We've got NBC's Kelly O'Donnell standing by. Kelly, what more can you tell us about what we're going to hear from the president?
Well, Lester, I believe the president will certainly talk about this as an important sign of progress, that the negotiations in which the U.S. was an important influence have prevailed here today, that the peace that is a pause is holding at the moment, and that those steps that you outlined for humanitarian aid to go in, that is taking place. There's still much more work to do. I would expect the president to thank all of the parties, especially the work of the government of Qatar that has been so influential in trying to be a go-between between Israel, the United States, and Hamas.
Questions? And here's the president.
All right, Kelly, we see the president approaching the podium right now. Let's listen.
All right. Yesterday, families all across America gathered together with their loved ones and to give thanks. We must be thankful for in America. The food on our tables, the family and loved ones in our homes, and the many blessings that come from living in the greatest nation on earth. And today, we can also be thankful for families being recruited and reunited with loved ones who have been held hostage for nearly 50 days. Beginning this morning, under a deal reached by extensive U.S. diplomacy, including numerous calls I've made from the Oval Office to leaders across the region, fighting in Gaza will halt for 4 days. This deal also is structured to allow a pause to continue for more than 50 hostages to be released. That's our goal. This morning, I've been engaged with my team as we began the first difficult days of implementing this deal. It's only a start, but so far it's gone well. Earlier this morning, 13 Israeli hostages were released, including an elderly woman, a grandmother, and mothers with their young children, some under the age of 6 years old. Separately, several Thai nationals and Filipino nationals were also kidnapped by Hamas on the 7th. They were released as well. All of these hostages have been through a terrible ordeal, and this is the beginning of a long journey of healing for them. The teddy bears waiting to greet those children at the hospital are a stark reminder of the trauma these children have been through, and at such a very young age. Jill and I, Jill's with me here, keeping them all in our prayers today. Today has been a product of a lot of hard work and weeks of personal engagement. From the moment Hamas kidnapped these people, I, along with my team, have worked around the clock to secure their release. We saw the first results of this effort with the release of 2 American hostages in late October, followed by the release of 2 Israeli hostages. I've consistently pressed for a pause in the fighting for 2 reasons: to accelerate and expand humanitarian assistance going into Gaza, and 2, to facilitate the release of hostages. And over the past several weeks, I've spoken repeatedly with the Emir of Qatar, the President Sisi of Egypt, and Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel to help secure this deal, to nail it down. And I want to thank all 3 leaders for their personal partnership to get this done. I spoke with the Emir and President Sisi and the Prime Minister Netanyahu again on Wednesday to confirm the elements of the engagement. As I said, today's release are the start of a process. We expect more hostages to be released tomorrow, and more the day after, and more the day after that. Over the next few days, we expect that dozens of hostages will be returned to their families. We also remember all those who are still being held and renew our commitment to work for their release as well. 2 American women and 1 4-year-old child, Abigail, who remains among those missing. We also will not stop until we get these hostages brought home and an answer to their whereabouts. I remain in personal contact with the leaders of Qatar, Egypt, and Israel to make sure this stays on track and every aspect of the deal is implemented. You know, this extended pause in the fighting brings a critical opportunity to deliver much-needed food, medicine, water, and fuel to the civilians in Gaza, and we are not wasting one single minute. Since my trip to Israel last month, I've been focused on accelerating the delivery of humanitarian assistance to Gaza in coordination with the United Nations and the Red Cross. I just spoke with my special envoy for the Middle East humanitarian issues, David Satterfield, for an update. And I've asked him to monitor our progress hour by hour and keep me personally informed. From the beginning, we put in place mechanisms to prevent Hamas from diverting these supplies. And we're continuing that effort to make sure aid gets to the people who need it. More than 200 trucks arrived at the crossing point in Egypt into Gaza today. These trucks carry food and medicine, as well as fuel and cooking gas. The fuel will be used not only to power the trucks delivering this life-saving supplies, but for desalinization, for water wells, for hospitals, and for bakeries. And hundreds more trucks are getting in position as well, ready to enter Gaza over the coming days to support the innocent Palestinians who are suffering greatly because of this war that Hamas has unleashed. Hamas doesn't give a damn about them. We also look to the future. As we look to the future, we have to end this cycle of violence in the Middle East. We need to renew our resolve to pursue this two-state solution where Israelis and Palestinians can one day live side by side in a two-state solution with equal measure of freedom and dignity. 2 states for 2 peoples. And it's more important now than ever. Hamas unleashed this terrorist attack because they fear nothing more than Israelis and Palestinians living side by side in peace. You know, to continue down the path of terror and violence and killing and war is to give Hamas what they seek, and we can't do that. So today, let's continue to be thankful for all the families who are now and those who will soon be brought together again. And I want to once again thank the Emir of Qatar, President Sisi of Egypt, and Prime Minister Netanyahu for their partnership to make what we've done so far possible, and for their continued leadership as we all keep working to implement this deal. And over the coming days, I'll remain engaged with leaders throughout the Middle East as we all work together to build a better future for the region, a future where this kind of violence is unthinkable. A future where all children in the region, every child, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Israeli, Palestinian, Arab, grow up knowing only peace. That's what we do. We're waiting now. Just a matter of, I thought, maybe even as soon as by the time I got here. But in the next hour or so, we'll know what the second wave of releases are. And I'm hopeful that it's as we anticipate. So thank you all for listening. I'll take a few questions.
Mr. President, when will the first American hostages be released since none were included today?
We don't know when that will occur, but we expect it to occur. And we don't know what the list of all the hostages are and when they'll be released, but we know the numbers they're going to be released. So it's my hope and expectation will be soon.
And of the 10 Americans that are unaccounted for, do you know all of their conditions? Are they all alive?
We don't know all their conditions.
Mr. President, how long do you expect this war is going to take? And have you encouraged Prime Minister Netanyahu to set a timeline, say, by the end of this year?
I've encouraged the Prime Minister to focus on trying to reduce the number of casualties while he is attempting to eliminate Hamas, which is the legitimate objective he has. That's a difficult task, and I don't know how long it will take. My expectation and hope is that as we move forward, the rest of the Arab world and the region is also putting pressure on all sides to slow this down, to bring this to an end as quickly as we can.
Mr. President,
what are the chances of this troops could be extended by a few days or more?
I think the chances are real.
Mr. President, there are members of your party who would like to see conditions placed on aid to Israel. What is your view on that? They would like to see, a reduction of the bombing and that sort of thing.
Well, I think that's a worthwhile thought, but I don't think if I started off with that, we'd ever gotten to where we are today. We have to take this a piece at a time.
Mr. President, do you trust Hamas to uphold their end of the deal?
I don't trust Hamas to do anything right. I only trust Hamas to respond to pressure.
Mr. President, you said you were hoping to get cooperation from Arab leaders. What are you hearing from them when you talk to them? What would you like to see them do?
I'm hearing a lot, but I'm not going to speak to it right now. There's an overwhelming desire on the part of the region to, let me back up. I cannot prove what I'm about to say, but I believe one of the reasons why Hamas struck when they did was they knew that I was working very closely with the Saudis and others in the region to bring peace to the region by having recognition of Israel and Israel's right to exist. You may recall when we did the G20 about a little while ago, I was able to get a resolution, a statement passed through there saying we're going to build a railroad from Riyadh all the way through the Middle East into Saudi Arabia, Israel, et cetera, and all the way up to Europe. Not the railroad, but it would be an underground pipeline and then railroad. The whole idea is there's overwhelming interest, and I think most Arab nations know it, in coordinating with one another to change the dynamic in their region for a longer-term peace. And that is what I'm going to continue to work on. Thank you all very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. I hope you enjoyed it.
President Biden taking a few questions there after making his remarks on the day that saw the release of 24 hostages so far. The president saying this is only a start. It's so far, he says, going well, talking about this deal that has allowed this transfer of individuals between Hamas and Israel. He says it's a product of a hard week and that there would be more tomorrow, meaning another group of hostages expected to be released tomorrow. The president also offering a bit of news there, suggesting that within the next hour we may learn who would be among those in the next group. As we've been reporting, no Americans in this first group released today. We know that there are several, of course, that the White House is watching carefully, but not to be released in the group today. Our senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell is traveling with the president, who is in Massachusetts for the holiday. Kelly, the president laid out the idea that there will be more to come, but also suggested there's a trust deficit when it comes to Hamas.
Which is why you heard him reflect on the diplomacy, his own investment in that, and with some of those partners in the region. He's saying he doesn't trust Hamas to do anything except to respond to pressure. And that pressure is being brought to bear by some of those key leaders, the Emir of Qatar, the president of Egypt, and the president of the United States, who has been in active conversations. We have heard from senior officials. The president has been briefed multiple times today on all the incremental phases of this very delicate, still fragile operation. But he's also reflecting the optimism that he believes there is progress here. And again, in careful tones and with some restraint that was almost visible with his pause, he is encouraging Israel to be cautious about how it carries out of Hamas, but being aware of the risk and the severe harm and loss of life of civilians that has taken place. So the president trying to have that balance. All of this, of course, in the days ahead continues to be on the knife's edge of will the peace hold, the short-term peace? Will the flow of goods be safely getting to where they need them to go and not in the hands of Hamas? Lester?
All right, Kelly, thanks. Let me go to Raf Sanchez, who is in Tel Aviv. Raf, walk us through what we can expect. The president seemed to suggest that we may find out. Walk us through what we can expect. The president seemed to suggest that we may find out who will be among the next group. Do we know when the next transfer will occur?
Well, Lester, the hope is that tomorrow we will see this pattern repeat. Another day of ceasefire, another 10, 12, 13 Israeli hostages released, and that will continue the day after and the day after. There is an option to extend beyond this original deal, which is for 50 women and children in exchange for 4 days of ceasefire and the release of 150 Palestinian prisoners under the structure of this deal, brokered by Qatar. There could be an additional day of ceasefire in exchange for an additional 10 hostages. The Israeli government is saying they are skeptical of Hamas, just as President Biden said a moment ago. They want to see how these first 4 days of ceasefire go, but there is the possibility that 50 hostages could become more. Lester, the 13 released today range from toddlers to great-grandmothers. The youngest is 2-year-old Aviv. She was released along with her 4-year-old sister Raz. We met their father on the 3rd day of this war. This was a man living through nightmare. He watched his wife's cell phone as it went from southern Israel into Gaza, and hours later watching a Hamas video as his family were blindfolded and kidnapped. He was a broken man, but tonight, Lester, he is posting he is reunited with his family.
All right, Raf Sanchez with our update from Tel Aviv. Thanks. That concludes this NBC News special report. We'll have much more ahead on our streaming network, NBC News Now, online at NBCnews.com. And I'll see you tonight with the latest on NBC Nightly News. I'm Lester Holt. Thank you for watching, everyone. Good day.